From Carolla One Studios in Glendale, California, this is the Adam Carolla Show. Adam's guest today, Dan and Lynze Cummins, and author Phillip Stutts. With Gina Grad on news and Bald Bryan on sound effects, and now celebrating Earth Day by begging Garrigus to use his private jet. Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get it on. No choice but to get it on. Mandate you get it on. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for telling a friend. We love that about you, right, Gina Grad?
That's right.
Handball, Brian.
You're so funny.
We have Max Pat in studio. We're going to do some trending topics in a second. This is stuff that's trending in the news. We're going to get our takes on it.
Here we go.
First, somebody tweeted me this morning, and they said, how do you tell the difference between soup and stew?
All right.
And I thought, yeah.
How does one?
Because we're blurring the lines now. There used to be a clearer definition between soup and stew, but there's been too many soups offered and stews offered. And I thought...
there's meat involved, like meat and veggies especially, like chopped up potatoes.
I have thoughts about this.
But there's certainly soup that has a lot of meat in it as well.
Beef, sorry. Beef
well, there's like beef barley soup.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I don't think we can do it with ingredients.
I personally don't think it's about what's in it. I think it's about the size it's cut into. So if you have not thinly, if it's thinly sliced, it's a soup. If it's a big like chunk size, you're making a stew.
Okay.
It's a good take.
Thank you.
Came up with something a little more scientific.
Okay.
And I'm going to put the whole chowder debate aside for now.
We should, just for
that's
today.
its own thing.
It's its own thing.
Yeah.
That's what I'll say about chowder. I said if you can take a straw and stand it up in it, it's stew. And if the straw just falls over, it's soup.
Question, do you call it lentil stew? Because
Yeah.
I like a porridgey lentil.
I don't know. I think lentil soup is like when we call tomato a vegetable, but it's a fruit. I think it's technically a stew.
I think you might be right.
We've just dubbed it lentil soup, but it's really more viscous.
So your theory stands.
So, and so is the straw.
Right.
So my feeling is the straw's not going to stay there forever. Also, you couldn't really drink the stew out of the straw,
No.
whereas you could drain a little of the broth with the soup through the straw.
It's been a while since I've had a number of stews. Is there a stew that does not involve big chunky ingredients?
Not from where I
someone
sit.
will tell us, but I agree with Gina. I think it's the size, not so much the carrots. Carrots seem to come in the same size, but it's the potato and the beef.
Yeah.
It's the cubes of
It's
beef.
the size.
But I still think of the viscosity of the stew more than I think of the broth.
No,
I
you're
think
right.
there's a clarity to it.
This is very Seinfeld. Was it a consomme? So I think that you guys might enjoy. We should do a.
I have another one.
Okay.
If you can put a credit card a quarter inch beneath the surface of it and still read the numbers.
You
now
mean
it's going to
opacity?
Yeah, that is now in the soup department versus stew. You wouldn't be able to do that. It's probably going to screw with the magnetic strip, but I think we all should do it anyway.
Yeah, and there's nothing more delicious than a dirty credit card being stirred around in your soup.
Just to tell if it's stew or soup.
We might have to do an Eat Your Feelings soon, because guess what I invented last night? At least I think I invented it. Chicken cheesesteak soup. Almost like a French onion, and it was delicious.
Yeah.
Wow.
Or stew. Who's to say?
I'll bring over my straw.
It sounds good.
I shouldn't be.
I just had an issue at the other shop because the guys in the back ordered Subway.
Veggie.
And Jose ordered the steak, basically the Philly cheesesteak. Of course, I need to know what kind of cheese he went with on that.
Oh, no.
Praying for provolone.
Of course. That's
going to be the name of my next podcast.
Cheese would be acceptable.
He went with pepper jack.
Oh,
That's not a cheesesteak.
That's a mistake.
That's odd.
I fucking tore into him big time. Pepper jack on a Philly
me 10
cheese.
guesses and I wouldn't have gone to pepper jack.
same.
No, not good. And as I said, with pepper jack, you always run the risk of the fake cheese, where it's unclear whether that's actual cheese or cheese product.
Are you okay with the cheese whiz in it?
Well, that's supposed to be the way to do it.
I have grandfathered it in. I don't like cheese whiz. I would go with the provolone every single time.
But in as much as it's a local custom.
a regional whatever,
Yes. Yeah.
fine, you're grandfathered in. But no, not a fan of the Cheese Whiz. As a matter of fact, I would probably go with the Pepper Jack over the Cheese Whiz.
Yeah,
so
same.
maybe I owe Jose an apology. But
Those are the only two choices.
still should have gone with the provolone. That's what I'm saying.
Standard.
All right, I'm hungry. Let's wrap
me
this
too.
up. All right, we have Max Pata's intro.
Oh yeah.
Don't even know your name. Thinks your producing skills are lame. Makes fun of how you're yours. Okay. You seem to only make things worse when you explain to him how Twitter works. No one would want your job. He screams and makes you have to jump to search the internet and make him right. Max Zapata. His real name's Laxamana.
All right. So I searched far and wide for the trending topics.
You shouldn't have to search far or wide.
I really
Trending.
did.
they're
No, just-
trending.
yeah.
Trending.
Yeah,
They're right there.
I searched far and wide on the trending page of Twitter, and so let's start off with the Oakland Raiders. Your Oakland
Oh,
Raiders,
boy.
not really yours,
The
but
who?
they
Las Vegas
That's
Raiders.
right.
please.
like excuse me, yeah, the Las Vegas
No,
Raiders.
that's 2 cities ago.
My brain's all over the place. So anyway, they tweeted out after the Derek Chauvin verdict a very controversial tweet that they pinned. So when you pin a tweet, Adam, you're basically highlighting this tweet. So they
Putting it at the top of your profile
right,
for all to see.
and they pinned this tweet. Kim will put it up. It's just
Oh, wow.
a black screen with the words in white. I can breathe for 2021. Obviously, talking about the verdict. I can breathe. So a lot of people were
Poorly
very
conceived.
very upset. Yeah, very. It's a lot of like the read the room kind of thing. So obviously their
Or
intentions
just
were
don't weigh in, or just sit this one
Or
out.
play
Right.
football.
or play
Yeah.
football. Yeah. So obviously we know what their intentions were. It just didn't really come off the way that they wanted it to.
Basically, also with the Oakland Raiders, like if you just went over the roster over the last 50 years and said the team that leads the league in accused rapists and wife beatings, Oakland would be a perennial. They'd be up there. Or I should say Vegas would be up
Vegas,
there.
yeah.
Don't
Well,
everyone, big corporations, sports and stuff, and we stop. So the thing about, I think we all agree, like, well, you want to talk about politics maybe around the dinner table, and then you want to escape to sports. The sports was always a sort of an escape,
Yeah.
and now we can't escape anything. But also, it smacks of what it is, which is, have this tragic situation, somebody's dead, and somehow you got to get a couple of attaboys piggybacked on
it's
it.
ham-fisted.
Yes.
You know what else doesn't make sense? Like, unless you have a real hot take that nobody else has heard, we'll just go ahead and assume that
Yes.
you're down.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll assume that you're down, and it's still not as bad as Nancy Pelosi, who did the "Thank you, George Floyd."
Yeah.
Tone deaf.
Thank you,
It's
thank
tone
you
deaf.
for what? I mean, Jesus Christ, and also, you just have to kind of think about what these things are going to sound like.
This was for
to
sure
others
approved.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just. But my feeling is sort of in the new world order of Chris Harrison or whomever. I don't know. We don't have to weigh in on everything.
Yeah.
It's going to. It might. So half the country may go, "Oh, that's awesome," but neither here nor there. And then the other half is going to be agitated.
Right. And I hate the NFL now.
And why even bother? Because there's little upside with potentially a lot of downside.
Right.
That's I guess what I'm
We
saying.
can ask
That's
our
exactly right.
first guest about this because he's in marketing and he works with a lot of corporations and stuff. But like, my guess is he will say something like, when it makes sense. Like if you're Patagonia, they're obviously very far out there. They're progressive. They have stances. Go ahead. That's what you're known for. You know what I mean? But if
Right.
you're the Oakland or the Las Vegas Raiders, maybe take a knee.
But also, no weighing in to me just means nothing. It doesn't. I don't go, how come I haven't heard from Patagonia?
Right.
Or how come I haven't heard from this company that makes thermoses
Oh,
or
their
something?
silence speaks volumes.
Yeah,
it's not like that.
I don't think about that.
Well,
I just think
neither.
they do something and they're doing it now.
Well, remember last year, or right after the George Floyd killing, that everybody for Black Lives Matter, they would post a completely black screen on their Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And there was even like things where if you didn't post it, you were getting called out.
That is true
That was a tough day
because
for me.
I
Yeah.
woke up that morning. I remember, I'm so glad you said that. Somebody said something, like I was, kind of look at Twitter. I'm kind of waking up and somebody always says something. Can I say something, funny back or acknowledge them? And someone said something about the show. And I did what I usually do is like a little laughy face and a, hey, thanks, man. And I got the angriest reply, like, read the room. This is not the day for you to tweet. And
Tweet emojis.
Well,
Yeah.
Chris asked me, and I was like, no fucking way. I'm not down with
You
Black
asked?
Lives Matter.
you
Yes.
did?
Oh, I think maybe I did. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not. First off, the history will show that Black Lives Matters is not a great organization. Now, and this is the real problem. This thing of it's diabolical. You start this organization, and then if you find any fault in the organization, it's now because you don't care about black people, which is diabolical. I've not signed off on that premise. I think you can care about black people and not be down with Black Lives Matter. And I don't know. We'll crunch the numbers and look at the data and see what Black Lives Matter has done for black people. So far, not a fuck of a lot, as far as I can tell.
Right. So,
All right, they
well,
made
anyway,
$90 million. They don't really say where the money goes, and then they got the chick who bought 4 houses. That's as much as I know thus far.
Same.
Yes.
Oh, anyway, so this particular tweet, everybody's saying like, look, this went through a writer, then a marketing
Oh, yeah.
team, then a
This
social
was
media
this
team, and it got
focus group.
approved. Also, but you're gonna like this, Adam. So the owner, Mark Davis, he said the tweet was his idea.
I don't
And-
doubt that.
And he says, I don't plan on deleting it. So there you go. He's not apologizing. He said, look, we meant no disrespect. We took the lead from George Floyd's brother, who said after the verdict, today we are able to breathe again. And George Floyd's brother even sends his deepest gratitude to the Raiders, saying, look,
Yeah.
it's all good. So they still have this up. I was clicking refresh all day.
Defiant.
Like, when are they deleting this? Everyone's like, dude, the social media person go home? I mean, it's 5:30, and this thing's still up.
Wow.
But you know what? I respect
I
that.
do too. My whole thing is at least just stand by
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
If you put it up, leave it up. That's fine. And besides, he has Al Davis Jr. What's his name?
Mark Davis.
Mark Davis.
Put up a picture, Caleb, of Mark Davis.
He,
Gina, you got to see this.
All
guy.
right.
He's the whitest man on the planet, and
He looks like a doofus. Like he looks like the do.
he
Baby
looks.
Louie, Huey.
He has a look like the guy from Idiocracy
Yes.
who's in the boardroom that's like staring at a Rubik's cube with his eyes kind of crossed. Like, yes, he does.
That's a billionaire, Gina.
That's not his hair. That's mean. Who
yes,
did that? Who photoshopped that?
he is. You know, we talk about the mullet all the time, but we forget about the bowl cut.
Yeah.
The
This is-
bowl cut is
Major
literally
bowl.
when they put a bowl on your head and just cut around the circumference of the bowl. That's what he has.
I mean, but with the red hair, he has to know, like, this is Howdy Doody.
He probably tore this page from his dad's kind of P.T. Barnum playbook, and also he has F me money.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's what he
Jokes
has.
on all of us,
That's
Gina.
right.
The Raiders have been dominating the NFL for the last 10. Oh, wait.
All right.
No, they're terrible.
All right.
Well, anyway, LeBron James was really upset with that tweet.
Right.
He wrote, "This is real? Nah, man, this ain't it at all. The fuck?" And then he has the guy with his hand over his face emoji. So because
LeBron's not down with it.
he's not down with that. He wasn't down with that, and that tweet's still up. But he did delete a recent tweet. So he posted and later deleted a tweet on Wednesday about the fatal police shooting of Ma'Khia Bryant, the 16-year-old black girl in Columbus, Ohio. She was killed Tuesday, about 30 minutes before the verdict was delivered in the killing of George Floyd. And body camera footage released after the shooting showed Bryant charging another teen with a knife as she was shot. So
Right.
James tweeted a photo of the officer involved in the shooting with a caption reading, in all caps, "You're next, #accountability," and he has the hourglass emoji on there.
It
And
seems a little aggressive.
yeah,
Also wildly misplaced. I've seen the footage and the breakdown of the footage. The guy pulled up. As he pulled up, first things first, as far as cops go, they don't just patrol around looking for black teens to shoot. They get a phone call, and then they show up, and they don't show up at the beginning of the situation. They show up in the middle,
Right, when a
or
knife has been
near
brandished.
the end.
Yeah.
So now you walk into a situation, and there's a chick who's got a knife who's attacking another chick. She pummels her, knocks her down, even kind of looks like she tries to stab her. It's kind of hard. There was actually video that is not the cop chest cam video, but the neighbor has video, and the neighbor's video.
Jeez, we're on multiple angles now.
Yeah, the neighbor's video is from his garage, and you can kind of see the whole thing, not just from the cop's perspective. But anyway, she comes running out. She knocks over one chick. I don't know if she tries to stab her. It looks like it from the neighbor video, though it's all fast and kind of hard to tell.
Right.
Then she turns on the other chick. The other chick goes up against a car fender, and the chick who got shot pulls her hand out, and I don't know how else you can describe it other than looks like she is not seconds away, but milliseconds away from plunging it into this person. And the cop who rolled up 22 seconds earlier has a choice at this point. He's got the gun out. He's yelling down or stop or halt or whatever. And now she pulls her arm back, and he shoots her. If he doesn't shoot her, then she's going to plunge the knife into the person. And she doesn't look like she's aiming for the meaty part of the thigh.
Right.
She's going up top with that knife. And I don't know. Then all the tweets come out. It's like another black teen shot.
Yeah.
Valerie Jared, I think, for the Roseanne one. By the way, when I stand by when Roseanne said, I didn't know the bitch was black. You see a picture of her just from her tweet. I have no idea what she is. But anyway, she was like, she sent out a tweet that said, a cop broke up a knife fight by shooting, a teenage girl. It's like,
That's one way to put it.
I'll read it to you.
It wasn't really a knife fight. It was only one person with a knife.
Yeah, so a black teenage girl named Ma'Khia Bryant was killed because a police officer immediately decided to shoot her multiple times in order to break up a knife fight. Demand accountability, fight for justice, # Black Lives Matter.
So she would call that a knife fight?
I guess.
Question. And
it was a fight with a knife. I guess.
Right, but knife fight
No,
implies
that's not accurate.
both people have a knife.
I'm
right.
not being totally rhetorical here. Would this story have made the news if one teenager bludgeoned another teenager to death, stabbed him to death with a knife? Because the cop watched and he didn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Well, there was a story in the same state of a 13-year-old being stabbed to death, black girl, at school, but that's not really news because it's probably stabbed by another black girl and there's no white cop involved. All I'm saying is pundits and Valerie and Black Lives Matter, sometimes you have to keep walking. You can't turn everything. By the way,
The nail on the hammer situation.
this guy saved the life of a black teenager by shooting another black teenager.
Oh, was that not the headline?
It's all just
Hero cop saves
just
teenager?
shoots another black teen, or kid or something like that. The other thing too is, from what I could tell from this tape, the chick wielding the knife looked stout. She looked like she could have been 5'10" and a couple bills. Like
Yeah, she was willowy.
He's not checking ID.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know that the age. Oh, first things first. What's the difference between a 19-year-old about to plunge a knife into somebody or a 16-year-old about to plunge a knife into somebody? How's he supposed to figure out how old she is? And then what fucking difference would it make if she reels back and is about to plunge the knife into somebody? So this would be an opportunity for the folks that find this sort of thing everywhere to either move on or stop and possibly praise or talk about what a difficult job. And then they start getting in, there's got to be a better way to handle this.
All ears.
All right, you get the counselors, and they can come in with their clipboards, and then what? Or these cops shouldn't have guns. Okay, then what? Let's just say he showed up with a counselor and no gun.
Right.
Ugh. Jesus Christ. Look, find it where it exists and report on it. You're not allowed to synthesize it. You're not allowed to sort of craft it in the lab and just make it into this. But sorry, Max Pan.
Well, anyway, LeBron James did not take a play out of Mark Davis's playbook. He deleted that tweet, but he responded to the deletion with this. Anger does any of us.
By the way, it's a good way to get this cop killed. We have a rich history of people showing up at people's houses now and doing shit these days. LeBron, you're putting the guy's fucking picture out there with no.
Yeah.
Okay, now he'll have a target.
Actually, can go to the next tweet.
Awesome.
So yeah, he responds, "I'm so damn tired of seeing black people killed by police. I took the tweet down because it's being used to create more hate. This isn't about one officer. It's about the entire system, and they always use our words to create more racism. I'm so desperate for more, all caps, accountability."
All right, well then don't show the fucking picture of the one officer and then say you're next.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, LeBron.
Yeah.
He's a fucking idiot.
He, by the way,
let's
he
face
has 49.6 million followers on Twitter. He is number 26 of all Twitter
All right,
accounts.
well, if one of them,
25 people with more followers.
there's going to be a lawsuit if someone goes after that cop. And he put his picture out there and said, "You're next."
Yeah.
The fucking pompous ass. We're such idiots in our society. The guy's great at one thing, and thus we think he's a genius. He's a fucking idiot. All right, do we have...
Jen.
I want to hear Jen Psaki's
okay.
take on
Yeah,
this
Keelan
whole
has it.
fucking thing, because I'm so tired of the perpetuation of this. You can just... This doesn't... First off, not everything needs to be addressed. Just shit happens. It happens all day, every day. That's unfortunately the society we're living in. Let's hear what she has, her take on it.
Has the president been briefed on 16-year-old Ma'Khia Bryant being shot and killed by police in Columbus, Ohio yesterday? It happened moments before the Chauvin verdict came out.
Yes. I said to you yes, and let me just say, since you gave me the
me find my
opportunity,
talking points.
the killing of 16-year-old Ma'Khia Bryant by the Columbus police is tragic. She was a child. We're
Hold
thinking
on.
of her friends and family.
She
and the
was a
communities that are
child.
hurt.
And that wasn't her name.
Well, then if a 3-year-old can wield a knife and shove it into someone's rib cage, then that's where we're at. All right, but she was a child. All right.
Is tragic. She was a child. We're thinking of her friends and family and the communities that are hurting and grieving her loss. We know that police violence disproportionately impacts Black and Latino people and communities, and that Black women and girls, like Black men and boys, experience higher rates of police violence. We also know that there are particular vulnerabilities that children in foster care like Ma'Khia face. And her death came, as you noted, just as America was hopeful of a step forward after the traumatic and exhausting trial of Derek Chauvin and the verdict that was reached. So our focus is on working to address systemic racism and implicit bias head-on, and of course to passing laws and legislation that will put much-needed reforms into place at police departments around the country.
All right.
President.
Not sure if this is a shining example of systemic racism, and then I'm also wondering what policies they can put in
Right.
place when the cop gets the call that someone's got a knife and they're stabbing a teenager on the lawn.
Right.
But okay, Jen, you could just say, we want to look at the rest of the case.
Yeah.
This isn't.
She went
We're
full.
going to keep walking
Right.
here. You have to fucking fan the flames even more. More systemic racism.
I don't know, Adam, if this has been on your radar. Chris, I know you're on Twitter a lot. Brian, I know you are. There's like a meme or like a challenge going around where you put a bunch of red plastic cups around and see if your cat can walk through them sort of gingerly.
Yeah.
And it's, it's really like mazy and complicated. That is Jen Psaki. I don't know what she just said or what she was talking about, but she maneuvered those plastic cups like a champ. Like that wasn't even the question.
She went full candidate or spokesperson platitude.
Yeah.
It was like, I got to say some stuff,
Yes.
but I can't really address this head on.
But my argument is you're convincing the American population, or at least attempting to convince them that there's more of this than there is, which would, of course, make for a very unhappy populace, a very agitated populace. Anyway, it'd be nice. My thing is, she could go another direction. She could go, there is systemic racism. This is not a great example of this. As a matter of fact, maybe this officer should have our gratitude. He
God.
possibly
That never would've
saved a life.
Yeah, I would love. Is that young girl speaking out at all? The one who lived?
Well, she was just like, I was about to be stabbed, and then the guy shot the person who was about to stab me. She was kind of.
Yeah.
wondering if anyone's pulling
I'm
that
sure she's
quote.
grateful.
Yeah.
She personally was happy
That's what I'm
about
saying.
it.
I just think it's in terms of headlines and media, you'd think that story would be out too.
You could spin that like, a life was saved.
Right.
But
Yeah, but they're not. We're not going to get that.
No.
Spin it the other direction. Thanks, Jen.
Well,
All right.
Let's
what
spin
else?
in a different direction here with your pal Ben Shapiro.
Oh, yeah, this is my favorite.
He is trending right now, along with Home Depot. So I love Home Depot. Last 8 months, all of my gifts have been Home Depot gift cards.
I love Home Depot,
It's the greatest gift in the world. But so what's going on with Home Depot now is a major coalition of black faith leaders in Georgia, representing over 1,000 churches in the state, called on Tuesday for a boycott of Home Depot, arguing that the company has abdicated its responsibility as a good corporate citizen by not pushing back on the state's new voting laws.
Or they could just sell plywood.
Yeah, well, that's what they're saying.
You know what I mean? I don't know how politically active every company needs to be, but okay.
Well, they're in Georgia. Their headquarters is in Georgia, along with Coca-Cola and Delta. Coke and Delta both have spoken out against the state's new voting law, but Home Depot said, quote, "The most appropriate approach for us to take is to continue to underscore our belief that all elections should be accessible, fair, and secure."
Well, here's what I want to say about Home Depot. I feel the same argument about Chick-fil-A. Go ahead, do the boycott, bitch. I bet you can't. You can't. You fucking love Chick-fil-A too much. You need Chick-fil-A. Everyone wants to fucking boycott the airline until they go on Travelocity and realize it's $30 cheaper to get to Phoenix, and they go, fuck it. All of your boycott ability just goes sailing out the window. So you can go to Anawalt Lumber or Terry Lumber, McConkey Lumber, and you can go down the street and buy your shit over there. You're going to pay $249 for the cordless drill combination, or you can go to Home Depot and get it for $179. So boycott all the fuck you want. It won't work. Their plywood is 30% cheaper than it is at the corner hardwood supply place. So it's not going to work.
Right.
It doesn't work for shit we want. It never worked for Chick-fil-A. It backfired because everyone's like, fuck, now I'm craving Chick-fil-A.
What's this Chick-fil-A I keep hearing about?
Yeah.
So Ben Shapiro, he's tweeted, "I'm shopping at Home Depot then. Screw this." And then he goes to Home Depot and he does an Instagram live, and we'll watch it right now. Here's him encouraging everybody to go to Home Depot.
You should be buying from companies that are not falling to the woke left. Home Depot, so far, is one of those companies. So here's what we're doing. And I encourage you to do the same. I'm going to go in there, I'm going to buy some stuff, and then I'm going to leave.
So he's going in.
Buy some stuff.
All right, as you can see, I just went shopping at Home Depot.
All right, pause it right there. All right.
Did it need a bag?
Yeah, explain what we're seeing, Gina.
I mean, it's how big is that plywood, Adam? It's a
It's
giant
not
piece.
plywood.
Or what is
It's
it?
dimensional lumber.
Okay.
Jesus fucking Christ.
It's
How
a
long have you
big-
been here?
It's a big ass piece of wood in a
It's-
teeny tiny little bag.
It's 8 inches wide and it's 3 foot long.
It's three plastic bags tall.
Makes Ben look huge, like
Yeah.
5'1".
Is a single piece of wood.
It's a single piece of wood, and it's 8 inches because it's bigger than 6 inches, and it's 3 foot because it's longer than 2 foot. And things kind of come in sizes, you know what I mean? So, Max Pata, let's relive, before we play the rest of this, let's relive our conversation we had when I was driving in here today.
Sure. Okay. Adam, do you see Ben Shapiro's trending right now?
Why? What'd he do?
Well, because of Home Depot and the voting laws, there's a big boycott against him. So Ben decided to go into Home Depot, and there's a video of him buying a piece of wood, and everyone's just making fun of him because he's holding a piece of wood in a plastic bag.
Oh, I haven't seen the video. I don't know about this.
Yeah,
Just a piece of wood?
yeah,
He just bought one piece of wood?
yeah, and everyone's just making fun of him.
Is it poplar?
Yes.
All right, play the rest of the video. What? Play the rest of the video.
See, I just went shopping at Home Depot. You should do the same. This wood, this board, this magnificent piece of poplar is now mine.
Okay, so this blew my mind because of all the questions Adam could have asked. Him naming the type of wood that Ben was holding based off of my description of it's a piece of wood in a plastic bag blew my mind.
How did you get there, Adam?
The best day of Sonny's life.
Yeah. All right, I went through my, I did it my sort of Peyton Manning check down at the line, you know? Omaha.
Sure.
Omaha. I was seeing if they had
You
the
saw they were
nickel
in single
package
coverage,
in.
yeah.
I saw that, so my brain was working like a computer. So I'm like, he bought a piece of wood? Yes, he bought a piece of wood, and he's holding it up. Now, he didn't say what size it was. He just bought a piece of wood.
You were in cover one, the safety was deep.
Yeah, so my brain's moving. And I'm like, well, it's not a 2x4. He wouldn't have bought a single 2x4. That would have looked weird. And obviously the bag at the end of the 2x4 would be like a thimble on Shaq's cock, you know. Sure. It wouldn't had a lot of coverage there, right? Mm-hmm. So I ruled out Douglas fir.
Okay.
With the 2x4s.
Yeah.
Then my next move was thinking some kind of plywood, but you can't hold up a 4x8 sheet of plywood. So now I'm into he's holding up a piece of wood. Okay. And also I'm toggling in between Max Zapata's laymanship, if that's a word. Not being a mass,
sure.
I'm not dealing with Bob Vila here. I'm trying to figure out.
I don't like that starts with lame.
Well, I'm also thinking it's lame and weird to go in and go, I bought a piece of wood, especially Ben Shapiro has no woodworking skills. What's he's going to make a fucking spice rack with that thing? I mean, he's not going to get his contractor saw and start ripping it off and putting it through the drum sander. It's random. It defeats your purpose a little because it says this is all for show. Yeah. I'm not going to buy. You can go there and buy
a box of screws.
Buy rat poison or fertilizer or trowel or something with a piece of wood that you're just going to throw in the back of your car and have your assistant remove, in 2 weeks. That's not you needing. Right. You don't need to. He doesn't need. No. I could have pulled that off. He couldn't. But anyway, so my brain. He's describing this to me while I'm driving. I've not seen it. I've not even heard about it. So I'm like, piece of wood in a bag? Piece of wood in a bag. So now my brain starts going to wonder if he bought a 2-foot wooden level and it's in a bag, which looks like you bought a piece of wood. Now I'm seeing it. All I'm hearing is what Chris is telling me. So maybe Chris is interpreting this piece of wood. I don't know he said piece of wood. I'm thinking Chris sees a wood level hang out of a bag and it looks like you bought. Wood levels look like you bought a piece of wood. They're just wood levels. I'm like, he said piece of wood. And then I started thinking about it and I thought, there's really only 2 species of wood. Well, there's 3. There's poplar, there's oak, maybe alder. Maybe.
Your best day.
Maybe. If I'm in a good mood.
Yeah.
Maybe there's alder, but I've narrowed it down to poplar and oak pretty much at this point. And if it's a piece of wood and he's holding it up in his hand, it's got to be poplar. Wow. And so I just shouted out poplar.
And you did all this in 7 seconds.
Yeah, maybe less. And then Max Zapata went, you're right, which made me confused again because why does Max Zapata, he doesn't recognize poplar.
Right. No way.
Shocked to hear Ben say it when I got here in the video. But I have told people all the time, you can know more than someone with a computer if you have the experience in your head and you can do the kind of deductive check down reasoning. I went through all the different sizes of wood and all the different species of wood and I ended up with poplar. Now it could have been oak. So we got a little lucky there.
Yeah, a little lucky.
But I knew it was poplar.
Blew my mind.
I used to work with poplar. It's kind of the poor man's alder.
Okay.
You know that. You've seen my license plate frame.
PRMN.
You park behind me. People know it. I get a lot of knowing nods on the 405.
Right. A lot of friends.
A lot of Karens give me that a boys.
Instead of Mr. Popular, it just says Mr. Poplar.
Yeah. Poplar's more of a paint grade than it would be a stain grade. Because it's kind of green and white. It doesn't really look that good. And it's like a softish hardwood. It's not nearly as hard as oak. Oak is real hardwood. This is amazing. And that's why there's no poplar cutting boards or things or baseball bats.
There's some give.
They don't really do thresholds. I remember the threshold I built here I may have made out of poplar, but
we're having a ball out here.
But it's paint grade.
Got it.
So I rolled the dice. I went with poplar, and then Max was like, "Oh my God!" I was on the phone with him.
Now I'm really getting interested.
Yeah.
It all just fell perfectly into place.
Other than that, we really don't care what he's doing.
But let's not.
Right.
I'm curious why Ben went with literally a piece of wood that he has no ability to work with and that would serve no function.
Isn't that kind of the joke? Like, look, it's a piece of wood. I don't have
He's
any
not a
business
dumb guy.
here.
Yeah. So maybe he went, I'm going to go I'm getting something I don't need.
Right. This
for
is what
$8.
I look like at Home Depot.
Yeah.
Do we
Right.
think he actually went and purchased that piece of wood then and there? Because as the video starts, he's in the parking lot. We cut to stock footage of people shopping. Then we finish with him in the parking lot, now magically holding.
I'm with Bryan. He probably told a PA, I need poplar. I need 8x3, good one side, 4-quarter, and he just dispatched him to
Right.
go find the poplar.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe he never bought it. It's still a weird. Well, it's more effective in one argument and less effective in a more pragmatic. I had to go to Home Depot to pick up some fertilizer.
Well, but I think that's what he's saying. He has no business there, and he
All
will
right.
now make it a point to go get something just to support them.
That's neither here nor there. It's that I called out the species of the wood while I was on the 101 freeway with Max
Oh,
Nevada.
boy.
That super impressive. Now I'm thinking if you're
Super impressive.
Oh, Bryan, if you'd done that, you'd fucking have a shrine made of poplar built to yourself.
I changed this show's name to Popular Opinion. No, it was Chris's transition that was great. That's great.
Thank you. Anyway, so I'm thinking, what does Ben do now? I would frame that piece of poplar. That thing is probably worth a lot more money now, just
That's
because
right.
it's been viewed millions of times.
All right, let's bring it home, Max Pat. We got our guest
All right, yeah,
in the
let's
waiting
do
room.
it. Why don't you hit a spot and I'll get out of here.
All right. Oh, do we have an outro for you?
Just a song.
Oh, do we do it? Dawson's
Do
eating,
it and then
but
fade it down.
Dawson's
That was trending
Dawson said-
topics.
Dawson says no. All right, let me hit McGuires. Over the last few years, McGuires launched their next generation of protective products, specially geared toward DIYers. You hearing me, Shapiro?
Shapiro, that's right.
Hybrid ceramic spray wax, bright blue bottle, advanced SiO2 hybrid technology delivers ceramic wax protection and durability beyond traditional wax. McGuires hybrid ceramic liquid wax, long-lasting ceramic protection, and an easy-to-use wax. Hybrid ceramic spray detailer for the in-between that boosts the maintenance. You don't go to the car wash. Just clean it up when it's not too bad. Removes dust, fingerprints, bird droppings, and let's not forget about weird insect droppings, which bother me the most on cars. And this year, they've expanded to include a new hybrid ceramic wash and wax, bright orange bottle, unique 2-liquid system together in one bucket. McGuires has a hybrid ceramic solution for everyone. Ceramic made easy. That is McGuires. All right, we're going to welcome back our friend Phillip Stutts. We'll get into all of the official particulars with Phillip. We'll do that right after this.
It's time to check Adam's voicemail.
Eighth man, driving the highways and byways, look out my window, see a homeless guy with a fold-out solar panel charging his phone and all his devices, making themselves comfortable out here. Love your work. Later.
You can leave us a message at 888-634-1744.
Phillip Stutts is joining us. Win Big Media founder and CEO and author as well. He's got a book out called The Undefeated Marketing System, How to Grow Your Business and Build Your Audience Using the Secret Formula that elects presidents. And he's worked on many different campaigns, over 1,200 election victories, House, Senate, presidential campaigns as well. Good to see you again, Phillip.
Yeah, good to see you, Adam.
Well, let's talk. And also we have you're an expert on school reform and school choice and all that, which is something I'm passionate about, ironically, because I don't really care about my own kids' education. But I do love the brown and black babies. So I'm here to help. So let's talk about what maybe the politicians know that we don't know as far as campaigns go.
Yeah, and what I put in the book was more of a historical view of how political campaigns have been run since 2000 and how sort of the innovation that has come out of there, because we have elections every 2 years and we either win or we're gone, has really transformed the business world. And so this is sort of a historical look at how political campaigns are run, how George W. Bush won, Obama won, Trump won, and then Biden won. And the formula that they used to win, and then how billion-dollar companies are now utilizing this formula to grow their businesses. And really, the whole point of why I tried to write it was that most businesses don't understand how complicated marketing is today in their business. and the game is just totally rigged against them. It's like Facebook and Google and Coke and all these companies. They're actually just big data companies now. And so the whole key to the whole thing is how political campaigns are using data to, I guess, persuade voters, and how companies should be doing that to persuade customers or clients.
Well, I guess what's the difference between a vote and a taco? Either way, you're just kind of
vote with your wallet.
Selling. You're just selling
I tell
a unit.
It's probably infinitely harder to get somebody to vote for an unknown or unsavory candidate than it is to buy a taco, right? So that's why I think that the way that we're utilizing sort of political marketing strategies in businesses has an advantage for those companies. And I wanted to tell that story, and I laid it all out in the book.
Well, that's funny, Philip. I was thinking about your book, and I was thinking about the recent, it's funny you mentioned since 2000, because each of those candidates you mentioned, maybe to a lesser extent Biden, but like Bush, Obama, and Trump had like major hurdles to overcome in terms of marketing. Like you had to market them in a specific way, because people forget Bush was looked at the time as like a buffoon, right? He was like the not quite Jeb. And then Barack Hussein Obama, no one knew who he was. His middle name was Hussein. And then Trump, had a bunch of baggage too. And it's like all those guys had to be marketed in a specific way. Was there some common thread of how that could put them over the top?
Yeah, it started really out of the 2000 campaign. So I was on the Florida recount team, and it was a brutal experience. I think Bush won by 537 votes out of almost 6 million cast in the state of Florida in 2000. Everybody thinks like the last two elections were close. Well, that was decided by 537 votes, the presidency. And so after that, Bush's team got around and said, we got to change everything. And what they ended up doing was bringing consumer data into the whole targeting process of the way they targeted voters. This is a little inside baseball, but it's kind of fascinating. And so for the first time ever, we utilized an extensive amount of data in the 2004 reelection campaign. It had never been done on any political campaign in the history of American politics. And they utilized it to persuade voters on what they cared about the most. We found out through that data what the voters cared about, Brian. Mm-hmm. And in a way, we were able to deliver messages only to those voters and only to those issues. And then in 2008, Obama took that model. He literally, stole it, not in a bad way. He just modeled it. Sure. And then he added in the social media layer to it, right? And 2012, he put that on steroids and won re-election. And then Trump took the data model we had in 2004, married all the social media aspect to it, and then had the incredible branding campaign of Make America Great Again. And this is the craziest one. So Biden is a complete outlier, but he still followed this 5-step system I lay out in the book. But they found out from the voters in 2020 that Trump was kind of burying himself by going on TV and talking about the coronavirus every day in his press conferences. They knew that if they didn't engage with Trump on a daily basis, the Biden people did, that ultimately Trump would just wear himself out. That if Biden got in a fight with Trump, that Biden was going to lose because Trump wears everybody out. I mean, he just wears everybody out. And so they said, you know what, we're going to hide him in the basement. I mean, everybody laughed at it, right? But that was their strategy, was like, just keep him out, let Trump kind of be out there talking, yelling and screaming at everybody, wear himself out with the voters, and then have Biden come in the fall and be the calm alternative. And ultimately, in all the post-election polls, that's exactly what happened. Well, the Biden team knew that before the election. And the one last thing, though, the Trump team was also following this 5-step system. And if you think about it, I think it was something like 45,000 votes decided this whole election between 3 states, Georgia, Arizona, and Wisconsin. And if you just had, I think it actually is 42,000 plus votes. So if you just had 21,000 plus Biden voters on election day at the last second switch their vote in those 3 states, Trump would be president right now. So that's how close it was.
Quick question about that, because it's interesting what you said about Biden and sort of staying out of the way. I seem to remember when Trump was elected, that was Hillary's strategy to sort of let him do that. And yet it ended up just clearing a way for him to win. She didn't get as much in his face publicly. She just sort of sat back. How come that didn't work for her?
No, I mean, we were on that race, so I can tell you that their team was engaged very heavily. She was not sitting back. She was trying to take the fight to him. And because in the data, now, of course, I'm going to get canceled for this, but in the data, it said, that she as a woman needed to fight back against the man. And so that's why she did fight back so hard on Trump. So
that's interesting.
You, but I just saw it up close.
Absolutely. Because when you hear people talk about it in retrospect, what I have heard is she should have been more engaged. She just, they assumed he was just going to be some reality star and he'd fade out himself. And I'm thinking, that's interesting because that would have been a different strategy, but maybe it wasn't like that in the moment.
Gina, let the men handle the interview. Brian, did you have a follow-up to your first?
What did she run
He wants to know what his favorite ice cream is.
Sorry.
No, I mean, my thing is what did she didn't have a real big campaign theme, right?
Right.
It was just kind of beat Trump, where Trump had Make America Great Again. And so ultimately they knew that brand was 1,000 times more effective than whatever it is
girl
Hillary
power.
Was talking
Well,
about.
is this a fair statement? Hillary didn't really have a platform per se. And we didn't know who Trump was exactly. Then after 4 years of Trump, Biden didn't need a platform either. His platform was no more Trump.
Right.
So Hillary, if she had had the luxury of us knowing who Trump was for 4 years, probably could have ran on a non sort of platform campaign that was a little opaque and we weren't really sure what she was because Biden is just not Trump. Right. That's what he ran on.
Strength.
And
that's
also
exactly what he ran on.
If Trump's just going to put himself out there and he knows, Biden must know 82% of the media hates Trump and he's just going to go out in front of the media, then let the media take him apart. Right. You can just hang out and let the media do its work.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is the Trump people were, again, following their formula all the way through. And Trump ended up getting, I don't have the numbers, but it's like 15 million more votes than he did the first time, which is totally insane. That never happens, especially someone that is as polarizing as he is. And so my point in the whole thing is businesses should be following these kind of strategies because you know what? The same people that we use this in this marketing system in politics, but sports teams use it to win championships. I mean, it's literally a 5-step process that every football team in America follows to try to win a championship. And there are just no businesses out there right now that are following it. And so I'm trying to kind of bring that into that.
Well, what are the 5 steps?
All right. So first step is, on the voter side, how about I walk through how it works on the political side, and then we can kind of make the correlation. So if I sit down with a candidate running for the United States Senate, actually, as a good example, I'm on Dr. Drew's show today, and he makes himself the candidate in the show. So if you want to go hear that podcast, it's pretty interesting. But let's say you want to run for governor of California. Let's just say it's an agnostic state. I know it's not. But the first thing I'm going to do is sit down with that candidate and ask them what they believe in. They always give me 20 things they want to run on. And I'm like, okay, no one really wants to hear your 20 things. But what I do is I go out and take a survey. It's much more sophisticated than that. But for brevity's sake, we go out and take a poll in the state, figure out of those 20 issues, what rise to such a level that you could get that candidate elected. And ultimately, it's 1 or 2 issues. But what you're trying to do is get an understanding of the voter and what they care about and where they have alignment with the candidate. And this is the same thing that we do, we do in business with customers, right? My thing is this: you have to understand what the voter cares about before you run out and talk about what you want to talk about. But it has to be in an alignment with the candidate. And then the second step is, now that you got it, you got to build a strategic plan. The third step is, now that you have the data and you've got a plan, you build your brand. A lot of politicians that don't follow this particular system, they'll run out, put a bunch of ads up, send voters to their website, and the website doesn't speak to the voter. I mean, you don't spend any money or send voters to a particular brand, like a website of the candidate, if it's not going to speak to the voter. So you must get the brand in place before you go out and spend a lot of money. The fourth step, and this is the fascinating one, so I think you guys will find this interesting. The fourth step is you do low-cost testing of the message, those 2 messages we just talked about. So for example, in the 2016 election, Trump's marketing team would run one ad 162 different ways, on Facebook, because back then Facebook was the Wild West. And when I say 162 ways, it'd be one message of one ad, And they would literally have a green background, a red background, a blue background, different font sizes, have a man in the ad, have a woman in the ad. They would have 162 versions. And ultimately, 8 or 9 of those would blow through the roof, and they really didn't know why. It just blew through the roof as far as engagement, persuasion, fundraising, all of those factors. And then the 5th step is, now that they've tested all of these messages, this one message 162 ways, they're ready to kind of launch out their marketing campaign. They've eliminated all the risk, and they're ready to spend their money and have an ROI in return. So obviously you can correlate how that works in business and sports teams. Sorry, so you'll appreciate this, I guess, Adam, because you like football so much. But if the Rams are playing the Raiders on Sunday, and then the next week the Rams are playing the Packers, the first thing they do on Monday when they come back to the facility is they're going to watch game tape. So they're going to find out what the data says about how they played in the past, and they're going to look at the game tape of the Packers for the future, right? They're going to get the data in place, and then the coaches are going to put a game plan in place, which is step 2. Step 3 is the owners of the stadium are going to clean the stadium, wash the jerseys, get the brand on point for the week so that they can have a game that week that looks professional. All week long, step 4, they practice the plays in the game plan, right? They're testing their plays out. And then step 5 is, now that they know the tendencies, the plays that'll work, the plays that probably won't work from practice, they go out and play the game. They launch, out, which is step 5. And then I started looking at this. I mean, lawyers do it to win cases. Doctors use it to heal patients. It's like a ubiquitous system that's in place, except in the business world, they aren't following this. And so many business owners right now are totally confused about, I run Facebook ads, I can't get any ROI, and they're just not following a risk-eliminated systematic approach to their marketing.
Could you get Dr. Drew elected governor of California?
I don't. So I got a call from Garagos a couple of weeks ago.
It's always how it starts.
Yeah, you got a call from Garagos.
But could I? I could get him definitely in a competitive game, but he's got things that he's going to have to overcome. And frankly, you need a really thick skin to run for office. So
what does he have to overcome?
My question back to you is, how thick is his skin? And because the hit he took this week on this homeless commission board is nothing to what would be done to him if he ran for office.
I would say thick skin, soft heart.
Yeah.
So depending on how that's balanced.
That's nice.
He doesn't have particularly thick skin. He's actually sort of hairless. I mean, technically, if we're talking about his skin.
Right.
I'm assuming you haven't focused group or group tested Drew's electability, but if you were to, what would he have to overcome?
Well, the first thing I do,
spots, I guess.
Yeah, the weak spot. Let me go to the strong spots, and I'll go to the weak spots. So the strong spots are, I'd probably go out and figure out what is it going to take for him to get 50 plus 1 of the vote, right? He only needs a little over 50, but you can piss off 49.9% of the marketplace. Doesn't matter. And so what are those issues that are driving people the most crazy right now that they would vote for Drew despite any deficiencies he has out there? And frankly, it's probably around the coronavirus response. And it might be even his homeless advocacy, because it shows that he cares and it's something they're kind of interested in. And so if I was to guess without looking at data, I would say, okay, those are your 2 issues. Those are going to run. And so in order to combat those deficiencies, you're going to show how much he cares about the homeless population. He's got solutions to fix that, all that thing. And so any voter that comes to his brand is going to be like, oh yeah, I'm pissed off about the lockdowns and the way that Gavin Newsom has corroded our economy and everything over the last year. And you know what? We have a horrible homeless situation in San Francisco and in LA and in San Diego and everywhere else. And this guy wants to fix it. Now, what would be his issues? Well, it'd be he's been on the radio or on a podcast or on TV for like 30 straight, or maybe even like 40 straight years. And I promise you, anybody that runs against him, they're going to have a team that will literally analyze anything he said over the last 40 years. And then you could just see the ads right now with the dark music and everything. And it's like, Dr. Drew believes in, and it's X, Y, and Z. And it's going to be his voice doing it. And that's how they come after him.
And anything you've ever said is going to splash onto him, I bet, Adam.
Yeah. And so
that may be good for your brand.
I guess the question is are we sort of post-Trump? Should one lean into this now? Like, it's inevitable. they're going to grab whatever they grab. They're going to kind of whip it up. They're going to do it out of context, and they're going to throw it out there.
Yeah.
Seems to me it's a bygone era of trying to walk things back.
Right.
I feel like the New World Order is, I don't know, full sort of Bill Maher. Just like, yeah, fuck it. These guys are scoundrels. They take that crap. They mix it up. That's exactly what they want because they want the status quo. They want to stay in power. They want to run this shit show off a fucking cliff into the ocean, and I'm not that guy. So they can knock themselves out. I want solutions, and I'm going to create them. Like, is it now leaning into this stuff? Because the distancing yourself, the apologizing, I don't feel like it works anymore. Yes. And Trump leaned into everything, and it worked okay at least once.
Stop apologizing. Yeah, I would never apologize again because, so I don't know if you have this in your notes, but my book cover got banned on Facebook.
What?
Because in my subtitle, it says the secret formula that elects president.
It's just a vagina.
And Facebook said I was trying to influence an election after the election. So they banned it, right?
You have a time machine?
And
yeah, really?
Exactly. And what I found out in that process, Fox News did a story on it, and I wrote a big piece in the Federalist about it. But there was a charity out there that approached me and said, we also got banned on Facebook. And I said, why? And they were a charity. I've now, by the way, I'm now donating the first $10,000 of my royalties of this book to this charity. But this charity is helping rescue sexually and physically abused kids from horrible homes. And during the lockdowns, they had more work than they've ever had in the history of their charity. And they raised less money than they've ever raised. So they decided to do a fundraising campaign on Facebook. Facebook deemed them an issues ad campaign and blocked them and banned them from running a fundraising campaign. And so what I tell people is this: in 2018, after Trump won, Facebook came after the political industry and they started banning candidate ads. And everybody went, yay, hooray, they banned those terrible political ads. We love you, Facebook. Thank you. And I said at the time, if they're banning us, they're coming after you next, right? And this goes to the apology side of things. And everybody's like, screw those political ads. Well, now it's starting to affect mine. I don't have a free speech issue. I have an advertising issue. But there are a million other business owners out there right now whose lives, employees, and families depend on running ads on Facebook or Amazon or Google or YouTube or whatever. And because these companies are now getting banned, it's affecting their businesses and potentially taking their businesses out. And then it's now moving to charities. And so the point is that when we don't stand up and when we always apologize for everything, hoping it goes away, it never goes away. And they're always going to come after you next.
Well, a good note to go out on. I will confab with Drew and tell him no apologies, because I think that's the new world order. And then the last question is California's supermajority Democrat, but the guy we're recalling is a perfect example of a Democrat who's run the fucking place into the ground. Do we have to elect another Democrat? Is it possible to elect an independent or a Republican?
I have to see. I can't remember if it's a jumbled race or not, or is it a party primaried race? So if it's a jumbled race where everybody's running, including Gavin Newsom, then you could say, like, as a political person, I'd be like, okay, what number do we need to get to win the whole race? It could be 17%. It could be 20%.
Right.
And then you'd have to build out that coalition. So that can happen. I just don't know if it's party affiliated or not. If it's just Democrats running against Democrats, Republicans running against Republicans, and then there's a general election, yeah, that's impossible.
Is he going to get recalled, do you believe, Gavin Newsom?
The signatures are enough right now. So it feels like it's definitely heading in that direction.
All right. Well,
and then the next time we come on, I'll talk to you about education reform.
Please.
Okay. And I do write about it in the book about how we utilized ed reform to beat an African American running for governor in Florida in 2018, and with the white Ron DeSantis. And after all these lockdowns, it's kind of a big deal, not only in education reform, but in the way we've lived our life. And I live in Florida now, so it's kind of a big deal. But yeah, we walk through that in the book as well.
The Undefeated Marketing System. It's available now on Amazon. Phillip Stutts, thanks for joining us again, Phillip.
Yeah.
Always good to speak to you. And always so much more to get into because the guy's so interesting. All right, let me hit Geico. Do you own? Do you rent? Well, you do one or the other. And now you want to get your bundle going because you want to save a bunch of money. Well, good. Take your homeowners or your renter's insurance and bundle it along with your automotive policy. It's a good thing, too, because you already have so much to do around your house. So what do? You go to geico.com, get a quote, see just how much you could be saving when you get your bundle working at Geico. That is geico.com. Dan Cummins and Lynze Cummins, comedian. Well, Dan's a comedian, and we're going to come on. We're going to talk podcasting and comedy and the supernatural world, and we'll do all that right after this.
It's time for Nicaraguan Name That Movie with Adam's buddy Oswaldo. See if you can guess which movie this famous line is from.
Toro, I want to fit in. We're not in Kansas anymore.
If you said The Wizard of Oz,
Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
you're correct. Now, back to the show.
Well, Dan Cummins and Lynze Cummins has joined us. The podcast, Scared to Death, is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube as well. Good to see you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Good to see you, Adam. Hi.
The subject of the podcast, Scared to Death, it sounds intriguing to me. So let's discuss.
Go ahead. You want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to start it where I had this other podcast, Time Suck, that's very analytical, and we did a few paranormal subjects that just weren't very fun to do on that show, like Amityville, where I'm just analyzing everybody's background and like, well, he couldn't have seen this because he was mentally ill, and this person had a criminal, whatever, and it just wasn't a very fun way to look into a ghost story. And I always like campfire tales, and I'm a big Stephen King fan and just like a good horror movie. And so I thought, like, well, what if we had a show where I try to find supposedly real encounters and just literally just try to scare my wife? And it worked so well initially that she actually almost had to stop doing the show because it was driving us crazy in our personal life.
There was a lot of tears.
It was just every like bump in the house. And I'm like, no, that's just the house settling or a demon or a shadow person. And I'm like, easy, easy.
I have the ultimate scary story for your wife. You shut the lights and you go, you know, when I was on the road last week in Phoenix, I hooked up with this chick and I have herpes. She will scream at the top of her lungs.
Terrifying.
There's nothing involving a hook on a van door that's going to be more terrifying than that news. Yeah.
True.
I love, let's circle back for a second just because I realize I love scary movies and I haven't watched them in 20 years and all I have to offer up is really The Shining. But I want your top, both of you, and Bryan as well, and Gina. What are 3 good scary movies?
Please ask our
Well,
guests.
we just watched one that was, I'm surprised it was kind of a sleeper over here in the States, but it was a British one that came out last year, won a bunch of BAFTA awards or was nominated for a bunch, but it's called His House. And just a really good, it's on Netflix.
I've heard good things.
And it's really good. 100% critical approval on Rotten Tomatoes, which sometimes will make me nervous because I'm like, is it too artsy? But the fans were like 78% too. And I've literally never seen a horror movie ranked that high.
His House. I'm going to write that down because I'm into this.
It's so good.
It's on Netflix.
She doesn't watch as many horror because they literally do rile.
It's a problem in our house because we try to watch them and I just put the blanket over my head. I'm like, is it over? Is it over? But The Conjuring, that franchise is really good.
James Wan does such a good job. Like the first Conjuring movie, he's really good, I think, at like horror movie rhythms where, you know, he builds that tension and you think the jump scare is coming and then it won't and you kind of let your guard down and then it pops you. I'm a big fan of the jump scares. If I look at like a roller coaster ride, it's like I want some, let's have some big dips. I don't need some slow burner that's going to have a weird twist at the end and I'm like, oh, that was cute. And then that's it.
Did any of you guys see Midsummer? Probably not.
No, I was waiting. I was waiting for someone to mention that. I haven't seen it, and I've heard it's incredible.
It's disturbing.
So weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yes. But I prefer weird.
But that's one for me.
Yeah, so you like the jump scare. You like
I wanted more. Yep. I wanted more adrenaline. That one, I'm like, all right, he's inside a bear.
No, I'm still freaked out by like Silence of the Lambs or Kiss the Girls. Like that kind of shit gets me.
Yeah, Silence of the Lambs and like Seven are the ones that are rooted in like a creepy reality are the ones that scare the shit out of me. And a weird coincidence, I posted a tweet today like asking, hey, what is the movie that terrifies you most as a child, traumatized you as a child? A lot of people had The Fly, a lot of people had Exorcist, a lot of people had Shining, but the number one by far was Poltergeist, which isn't that scary. I guess when you're a kid.
You didn't have a giant tree in your front yard growing up.
That's true.
I would
Apparently
say
not.
now it hasn't been made into a film, but if we had my parents' wedding video, I think that would be number one, and then I'd go Shining.
You have that reel to reel.
Two classics.
Two classics.
The Carolla family haunting.
I think Poltergeist, haunted house movies are always the classics because they're the most relatable. Like you're like, well, this entity is terrorizing this family in this house, and I live in the house, and I have a family. So as opposed to like we watched the autopsy of Jane Doe recently, and it was interesting, but the premise was, this corpse is kind of been ritualized. It was like this witch kind of ritual. It's really kind of high concept. Only the corpse, only people near this corpse can be affected by it. And I'm like, well, I'm not near a corpse, so I got nothing to worry about.
Oh, well, this
I think the haunted house movies are always the best.
They'll dovetail nicely into this concept that I've never had in my life, but I'm interested in what everyone thinks of it, which is, the Cinerama Dome has been closed down. And if you would watch a movie about a haunted house in the Cinerama Dome, there's part of you that's attached to the screen, but there's a part of you that can hear a guy eating popcorn behind you, and all you have to do is look around. You know what I mean?
You know you're safe.
It would appear to me that if you could watch a movie about the horrors and the wreckage of riding motorcycles without a helmet while riding a motorcycle, it would be that much more. That much. I don't know how we pull it off with the cable, but it would be that much more horrifying, right?
Plane crash movie on a plane.
If you're sitting in your house now watching Netflix, and it would seem to me that they should start tailoring movies to your environment, because if 75% of the movies are going to be on a sectional sofa in a home, then a movie that's taking place, The Shining, they're in a maze on the top of a ski chalet, which is still scary, but your environment being represented.
That's so smart, and that makes me think if that's true, then you guys must love, or we must have at least a reverence for paranormal activity and things that are really supposed to be going on, like basically in your house.
Hold on. I got a pitch. This one is about a sectional sofa that's possessed.
There's Patton Oswalt has a bit about a real horror movie called Deathbed, the bed that eats people.
Oh, I may have even seen
So
a trailer
let's
for
get
that.
in on
It's been a while. I've heard that bit.
But it is kind of interesting, like if you sort of went, well, is an average home 2 stories or 1 story?
Is it split ranch?
Should we involve the staircase
Right.
and what's the average thing when they watch Netflix? Are you sitting on a sectional? Are you on a love seat? And you kind of worked all that, and then you just sort of wove it into the whole thing. Like, what is the average name for a husband in this? If it's
Aiden,
Glenn,
I heard a noise.
then make Glenn the name of the guy who's wielding the axe.
Right.
Make it the most relatable. No, absolutely.
You're the next James Wan. Let's go, Adam.
And I like watching them at home too. Another thing, you're talking about the watching a movie in the theater. Horror movies are so hard to watch in a movie theater.
Well,
because you got to watch in the right theater. Because
with the right audience.
With the right audience, because if you do have that idiot behind you looking on their phone too much or chewing on popcorn, they're the most fragile. Like if it's like some The Hangover type, comedy where whatever, I'm not emotionally invested. It's just like gags and laughs. Fine. But I'm a horrible person sometimes to watch a horror movie because it's like very firm. Like there's a lecture before the movie. Nobody talks. We don't move around too much.
I think I've seen you at the I've seen you at the ArcLight. I saw you at the ArcLight when you commandeered the microphone and pushed that guy. Move over, Junior. I'll handle the crowd.
Oh, we had to.
Oh my God!
When we were living in LA, we had to stop going to the movies for a while.
Yes.
The Lemley.
The
Lemley. I lost my mind, and I thought like
I'm like 3 teenage girls.
Oh, this is a good horror movie.
Dudes, so it's not just girls. But it was a Ryan Reynolds, some indie movie.
That was so good. I can't remember what it was.
The buried one?
Was it The Voices?
Very quiet.
The Voices?
The one he's buried in the pine box? Was it that one?
It wasn't that one. I thought, because I've seen that one too.
Was it
This one
Mississippi
was like,
Grind?
was that north somewhere?
Was it Deadpool?
Mississippi Grind.
Perfect.
And it was so quiet. And these three like teens were just like, they just talking. And I did the stink eye, and that didn't work. And they're like, hey guys, we're trying to enjoy this. That didn't work. And then they kept going. And I had snapped a few times previously. I was also now that I'm remembering, I was on the steroid cream.
Yes, this is true.
This is when I stopped taking that because I was having these little flashes of too much testosterone.
It was a special time in our lives.
And I just, in the middle of this quiet, small theater, I was like, shut the fuck up.
Wow.
You're not at your house. You're not at your, go fuck. And I just wake up. And then I will say they left. Everybody else, it was very tense. I enjoyed the rest of the movie immensely because it was very quiet from that point on.
I gotta say, you living at the intersection of roid rage and nerd rage is a very interesting place to hang your shingle, because I fell equal part nerd and roid in that outburst.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Now Lynze, it must be. The only thing, okay, let me explain what is worse than being at a theater with the three teens talking. The worst thing is sitting next to the person who set the countdown clock for the explosion. That is the most uncomfortable place to be, whether it's a restaurant or movie theater. When you're with that could be your dad, could be your stepdad, could be your husband, could be your wife, and you know that person's going to go off.
Yep.
And they'll start with the little indicators, like, what are they even in here for? Little comments like that. It's now a countdown to a crazy, embarrassing explosion,
That's exactly
which is very uncomfortable. Were you sitting in the theater as well?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And for a while, that was a lot of social interactions. I feel like the script has flipped. Like now I'm more, I think it's just because of COVID, right? We've been at home for so long, and I only have Dan and our two kids and our dogs to yell at. Like I really need to yell at somebody else. They ignore me now. It's completely lost on them. They don't give a shit. So now I'm like, I'm really tense. So when, someone's crossing the street, I'm like, hurry the fuck up. What are you doing? Come on.
Yeah. I worry more about you, but for many years, it was definitely, and the kids too, very much like, when's dad going to embarrass us in public next?
Right.
It was,
but that's what you're supposed to do with kids.
True. I'm doing a good job of it, apparently, because when friends come over, it's like, please don't say that.
Yeah.
Please don't say this.
Once they get to a certain age, traumatizing them and embarrassing them is a very fine line. At 12 or 13 years old.
Yeah, my poor daughter.
And Gina, you have a step kid, right?
I do.
Sorry.
Yeah, and he's a little guy. But yeah, I mean, but his favorite thing, and I've said this on the show before, he's tough to take to movies because he loves a good audience and he loves a quiet room. And usually he'll announce that he farted right as the lights go down because everybody around us laughs. And he loves that feeling of people laughing when he's talking.
My daughter had that moment because she had her friend in the car a couple weeks ago. And I was like, you guys back in school yet? And the friend was like, no, we're not back because of COVID. And I was like, not because of COVID. Thank your governor. And my daughter was like, Dad, no. No rants about Newsom. No rants about Newsom.
That's awesome.
It was like that scene in Monty Python, like no singing. Like she slid in and was waving the band off.
My son's listened to enough of my stuff to know that I have no shame about myself. Like I've just done the most grotesque stand-up bits or whatever about the most things that most people would take to their grave. So when I threaten him to hey, let me ask this waitress if she's into you. He knows that I would do that. So he's like, no, I will leave. I'll leave. I'll walk out.
I love that.
He's 15, so it's a great time to really, really.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah. Oh, my daughter, all I have to do is ask. It's so funny because it was such a part of my childhood. I always ask her friends, what do your parents do? And I always get Dad. Yeah. And it's I don't know. That was I grew up with, what's your line, bub? Right, what line you in? What do you do? I always, even that's now embarrassing sacred territory that we cannot tread upon. I think when you're a 14-year-old girl, any questions are a no-fly zone, right?
Yep, just don't talk to my friends.
Yeah, our daughter is 13, and we're just starting to see the beginnings of like, okay, yep, we're not cool anymore. Yeah, she just, please don't say anything. Please pick me up in this parking lot at this time.
Right.
And every time I go, there's no one else around.
And we let our kids talk about whatever with us, and they have the most absurd senses of humor, and they can use profanity, like whatever. Like we let them get it out of their system. So that's been interesting to see how they behave when their friends come over now, and they're like goody two shoes, very quiet, because like when it's just us, a running gag forever is that my daughter Monroe is my other son. He's my most important son. But his dick fell off when he was little, and she has taken this joke, and she'll say sexist things and be like, "Women, am I right?" and like high five me, like making fun of Lynze, and then
it's so out of control.
She's like, "It feels good to be a dude, right?" Like all this stuff, but then like when her friends come over, it's do not bring up a hint of any of that.
Last week she was talking about how her dick was in the fridge fermenting, growing, because she wants to make sure hers is bigger than her brother's before they reattach it.
Wow.
She should grow
Our
it.
house is interesting.
She should grow that dick like I used to do avocado pits. You put the toothpicks in them, you put it in the windowsill, you let the sun hit it, and it'll... By the way, I would love to pitch that activity to my kids. Like, don't throw away that avocado pit, kids. Why, Dad? Whoa. Buckle up for excitement. We're going to put toothpicks in it. We're going to put half of it in a cup of water. We're going to put it on the windowsill. In 9 weeks from now, you're going to see a sprout.
Tiny sprout.
Come out of it. It's going to be awesome.
It's just a waste of my time.
Oh, Jesus Christ. What used to pass for entertainment. Dan, and I'll ask Lynze the same question. It's crazy that our kids, all of our kids in our lives have comedians or authors or podcasters or whatever the fuck we do, entertainers, as a living. Yeah. It would have been mind-blowing for me, I think, as a kid if my parents were entertainers. But what did your parents do? We'll start with Dan.
My dad is when I was young, he was a logger. So he felled trees up in this little town, Riggins, Idaho, outside of there. And my mom did not work, but they got married. Like she was right out of high school.
Yeah, like 18, 19.
Got married and then got pregnant with me. And then we moved to Alaska where he did construction. And then my mom was like a homemaker. And then after they divorced, when I was 8, he still did construction. And then my mom just was I guess the clerk at the grocery store. Oh, she worked at the grocery store, and then she was a teller at the bank. The longest job she had was a bank teller. And then my dad's, some type of construction after logging his whole life.
Yeah,
no one really knows what your dad does.
My dad's a mystery. My dad, he goes overseas, and who knows? He could be killing people. He could be doing construction. We don't really understand.
But it doesn't get much more manly than logger, right? I mean, that's...
He's a manly dude. I was intimidated by that kind of growing up because this is so weird, but one of my earliest memories of my dad is watching him fight 2 other men at an intersection because they flipped him off at a stoplight. So he decided to get out of the truck and start throwing punches.
Oh,
we got another August.
Like I've never done anything that man. Never in my whole life.
No, you scream at teenage girls.
I also scream at guys sometimes. Come on. It's my defining moment.
How old were you? How old were you when your dad threw down with the guys in the intersection?
I must have been 4 or 5. It was a pretty early memory. Yeah, he was
frightened or impressed?
Honestly, both. Honestly, I was a little frightened at one point because he was beating one. I do remember it. It was such a intense thing. He was beating up one guy, and then another guy came out of the passenger, and he had something. I can't remember. He was holding something in his hand, but it was not a fair fight.
Your daughter's.
And then I was like, oh my God, they're gonna kill my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was so intense. And then a guy from a gas station near this intersection came over with like a tire jack.
Oh my God!
And defended my dad. It was pretty intense. And he had a huge welt on his head where one of the guys hit him with something. But also, when that was all over, I was like, my dad is the coolest man alive.
Yeah.
He bought 2 dudes at the stoplight. and then when you get older and have kids, I'm like, that was insane. Why would you ever get out of your car to fight 2 guys at a stoplight?
With your kid in the back
It was so unnecessary. I know.
Well,
I know. Because they flipped him off.
Wow.
Well, he was in a truck, so he was probably in the front seat, right? Because was a bench. Your dad was a bench seat man. If I know your dad, no child seat facing the wrong direction.
Yeah, he did have what was it? The Silverado. I think it was.
Could be
guys fighting in the street. is down a lot now. Now women are fighting in the street, but guys used to throw down more, and it was like, I think there were two reasons. A, nobody filmed everything, so there wasn't the whole litigation thing was kind of out the window. And then B, you could be pretty confident that there wasn't going to be much more than a tire iron involved. Now there's a possibility of firearms or machete or something. Everyone is so batshit crazy and hopped up on bath salts. Like now you're going to get fucking AIDS from wrestling with a guy in the street because his machete's polluted, you know. Back then it was kind of a simpler fisticuffs kind of move, and no one was going to be the worse for wear in terms of information because no one had a Ring doorbell. So
no one's going to call child services because you left your kid in the car to go beat two dudes up.
Right. My dad talks about this because I was like, man, that's so crazy. I'm like, I haven't had experiences like that, or I used to, talk to him about that, and he was just like, yeah, it's a different era. He had 5 brothers, and most of them got in lots of fights too. And he's like, yeah, you weren't worried about somebody pulling a knife or you're pulling a gun, even though they all had guns. It just was a different culture, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Lynze, what did your dad do? And mom?
Nothing that exciting. I grew up in Cleveland. So my dad worked for a Ford Motor Company the vast majority of my life. Prior to that, he was like, a salesman for this, that, or the other. But once he got in at Ford, that was it. He was on that trajectory. And my mom was an office manager. I mean, like, that's what we would call it now. She was a secretary, right? Mm-hmm. So that was her whole life until I was in college. My mom we call her Saint Joan. My mom is so incredible. Like if Martha Stewart and Mother Teresa had a baby, it would be my mom. Like she's just and she's such a fucking badass too. It's just this incredible combination. But she says I graduated in June and I got married in November. And my parents were married for 22 years before they split up. And then my mom raised my brother and I, put herself through
working
school.
multiple jobs.
Yeah. Oh, she would deliver the local newspaper at 4:30 in the morning. Then she'd make sure we got off to school, go to her day job, then go to college. She went all the way back to get her master's, and God bless her, she is crushing it. She works for the Cleveland Clinic. She has a big job and she's amazing.
Does she want to adopt us?
Wow.
Oh my God. I'll share. She's really great.
She is. She really is. Yeah.
Yeah. She's sweet.
I think I'm going to have to get my kids a laminate so they can read from it because leaving it up to those two when they get older. What's your dad? He did a pod cart and he would bloviate into a
tweeted a lot
mic, and then he anger people, give money because they were angry.
Claimed people wanted to hear it.
Something. Anyway, it's best that he's passed on, and let's not bring this up again. Yeah, I realize we're going to have to educate our kids because they're going to round way the fuck down. We're not going to hear anything about celebrated author or any of that. That ain't coming up. No. Yeah.
It is different having not intellectual, but artistic, I guess, type jobs where you're just a creator of some kind, conversationalist, whatever, as opposed to these jobs where people made things. Like her dad worked in the Ford factory that made the V6 EcoBoost engine that's in my Ford. He actually might have put some rivets on the engine in my, and I think that's so cool. And my dad can build a house he can do the foundation. It's I can't do any of the, I can talk, and I'm lucky that enough people are interested in hearing me talk that I can pay the bills. It's it's a weird difference.
I am a master carpenter, but none of that shit's coming up either when my kids describe
your kids?
Me.
Because that was pre-kids, right? Way pre-kids. When you were a long time ago, I know you could do that stuff, but when you did it for work,
yeah, that was my job. The people the dads we should feel most sorry for is the daughter of the Navy pilot, because she's he flew off the ship or something with they fought with MiGs or something. I don't know what it was. It's what did he fly? I don't know if it's an F-415 or an F something. He went off the battleship carrier. Right. He just did that.
From me?
He flew upside down, inverted over MiG, and took a picture like in Top Gear over there.
Yeah.
Top hat.
Yeah, Top Hat. Something like that. I don't know. He's got a bunch of stories.
Do your families really understand like what you guys do, especially like how big the podcast is? I know that my family, just having the backgrounds they do.
Oh my God, it's great.
They've never listened. They don't even know how a podcast works. Like they don't understand this world at all.
They don't even know how to listen to a podcast.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll be a one-upper here.
Like with them, yeah.
I was on Dancing with the Stars. My dad doesn't even know how to watch network primetime TV. He was like, Dad, hey, son, did you get eliminated last night? I was like, well, you could have tuned in and
ask literally anyone in America.
That's right.
Yeah. You can find the highlights on YouTube pretty easy. Yeah. There's so many ways to get that.
Yeah, it's a totally different world. So I have to feign interest about things with my kids that are inherently uninteresting, right? And then our parents have to feign disinterest on things that are wildly interesting that we're doing. And those seem to be the rules,
those are
right?
two choices.
Yeah, sad.
Adam, what's the thing that you have to fake interest in the most with your kids? Because our son Kyler is into some weird shit that like Irish folk music. He's teaching himself Norwegian.
What?
He's pretty nerdy.
That's good
he likes
though.
classical. Yeah, it is.
I know, nerds rule
Thank
the
God.
world. I get it.
When I was a teen, I was burning things and breaking into places. So it's like, thank you, God, for giving me a nerd.
Teaching himself Norwegian.
I don't know. That sounds pretty killer to me. I don't know. I like it. It's inane. I like it. It was a couple things. I don't do too much of it with my son because, like, when he was into Pokemon, I'm like, no way.
Oh, yeah.
You're gonna make fun of yourself in 5 years when we talk all this Pokemon bullshit. But it's really more stuff like. It's more like the travel sports, like the volleyball tournaments. My daughter's volleyball. She got 3 of them coming up in Vegas. And it's like, we have to get on an airplane to watch our daughter play volleyball? Yeah, that's what you do. And you got to get a hotel because it takes place.
Who's
and
this we?
There is no end date. Like, so when I grew up, I played Pop Warner football. And like, here were the rules, essentially. I played for the East Valley Trojans. Our home field was North Hollywood High. It was the high school that's closest to your house, essentially. If, in fact, you're playing a home game on a Saturday, the games were Saturdays during the day. They could be at 12 o'clock or 2 o'clock or 10 a.m., but it was like one of those. It was a 2-hour commitment, and it ended, and you could go home. So you could, like, walk across the street, go watch the noon game on a Saturday, and then the game would end, and then everyone would go home. And if it was like an away game, like we had to go to like Canoga Park or Chatsworth or something, it was a hard pass with my family. Fine. They're not going to drive all the way to fucking Chatsworth 14 minutes to watch me play football for 2 hours. But like, fine. It was easy. Now the new rules are, well, what's going on with the volleyball tournament? Well, we don't know. Because they win their first game. Then they're going to do... Now, if they win 4 games, you have to quit your fucking job and move to Henderson. Those are the rules. Those are rules.
They play a month from now.
But if they lose the second game, then we can... Now you sit in the audience and pray for defeat of your daughter's team. You're literally like, fuck, I hope they get eliminated because I'm starving and I don't want to move to Henderson. Like, there's no, and then they win, they come back the next day. No. And they're like, well, I got to work the next day. Well, you better hold off because we got to figure this out. It's
your
like,
daughter bricks a serve. Like, yes.
Yes. You do root. You end up rooting against the kids because if they succeed, you have to hang out for another day. No hard outs.
Yeah, it's such a different world. Like Kyler got into soccer when he was younger, and I don't like it. I know it's the world's most popular sport.
No, hate it.
No part of me cares about it.
Yep.
And so there was that, and then he had this expectation, and a lot of other parents would do this, where everybody would show up to watch the practice, and then he would like sad if you don't go to the practice. I'm like, what? Like, and they were little, so it's like, A, you guys suck. You guys suck during the games. And then B, it's like you suck worse during practice. Like it's like watching paint dry.
Yeah.
And but my parents would have never in a million years done that. They didn't watch most of my games when I did play. They would have literally laughed in my face.
Yeah,
if I was like, hey, can you come watch me practice?
Yes.
No parents were ever expected to go to a practice. You drop the kid off and pick them up in 2 hours.
There is practice attendance now.
Not interested.
Oh, yeah.
That's so dance moms.
That's
Why
a
would they
thing.
do that?
Yes.
I don't get. Thank you. Thank you
It
for
is
understanding
dance
my.
moms.
Thank you. You go to the observation loft.
Yeah, it's a new world order. I don't think it's helping the kids because you cannot have a whole childhood of people watching you practice, and then that goes to you becoming an adult and like getting into the work world, and someone tells you like take out the trash and then go make a Starbucks run, and you're like, who's gonna view this?
Right.
And it's majesty, and it's like nobody. Hit the fucking bricks. Like. We were used to it. We were completely acclimated. By the time I got to a construction site, it was just one more old alcoholic yelling shit for me to do, and I was totally used to it at that point.
Yeah, and that's good. I mean, we talk about that with our kids. We'd see these other parents and the coaches. Everything's positive. Everything's you're doing great. You're doing great. And I remember I felt a little bit like a monster at the time, but Kyler like will point this out now is a thing of like, I'm glad you did that, where we watched this game. So this was actually a game, and they were terrible. It was a terrible league of terrible teams, and they were the worst team in the terrible league. And at this point, he was one of the worst players.
Wow.
One of the worst teams.
Wow.
Because he wouldn't practice. He wouldn't practice at home. He wanted to dress wear the cool stuff.
Yep. He had all the gear.
Yep. Do his hair like Lionel Messi, but not actually practice outside by himself and do that stuff. And so we're leaving it. And I was like, hey man, how do you think you did today? And he was like, good, really good. And I'm like, yeah, how do you think the team did? And he's like, oh, we did great. I was like, hey buddy, you lost 12-1. And at one point you were walking the wrong way, chasing a bug or something when you should have been. I'm like, let's talk about great. I'm like, that was not great. That was absolutely terrible. Like you guys, you don't practice. But we had this whole thing. And I'm like, you talk about Lionel Messi. I'm like, you know what Lionel Messi was doing at your age? He was practicing 6-7 hours a day, like constantly, because he wanted to be great. I'm like, I'm not going to keep showing up if you're not going to put any effort whatsoever into this stuff. And then he was like, okay. And then after that, he was done playing soccer. But then he found music, and now he loves that. And now he works really hard at it. He gets good, and he focuses on academics. Like, but I hate that, like rewarding kids continually for just bullshit. It's like, because that's what I think of the workforce.
I'm so glad.
You're going to suck.
I am so happy to hear you, because I don't get pushback on this, but because we have a 5-year-old at home, and there's so much, I don't know where he's getting it, but there's a lot of like, look at this, but I worked really hard on it. And I'll look at it and I go, no, you didn't. You didn't work hard on this. And he looks at me like I'm a monster. I'm like, I've seen you work hard. And when you work hard, I'm very impressed. You did not work hard on this. Yeah. Therefore, go put it in the trash, go put it in your room, but it's not staying here because you're saying it, because they try to bullshit you.
Oh, my son.
Yes.
My son should be put in a fucking gulag for the lies he tells. And I'm not saying tortured in a gulag, just confined. Right. Just confined. I'm not a weirdo. We sit and watch movies frequently in the movie theater I fucking built because I'm a carpenter and now I'm a rich carpenter. So that's a good combo in terms of home theaters. And I'd been bugging him, like, when I was building the theater, like, could you help me build the riser? Like, come out to the garage. He put in about 14 minutes one day. Like, he literally went out the garage and slid a piece of plywood, like 10 feet. Yeah, he did Ben Shapiro at the Home Depot. And when we sit in the theater and we watch the movies, I go, pretty cush, sitting in the theater Dad built. And he goes, the theater we built.
Wow. Wow. Straighten you out.
I love it. I will do that too.
I do. You know, the other thing that's comical about it is that cavalcade of bullshit would work on everybody else in America except for one human being. The guy who's sitting next to him. Interesting. All right. Shall we, you guys want to hang around, do some news with us?
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Love to.
Yeah. All right. Let's take a break. We'll come back and do the news right after this.
Give me the news with Grad. News with Gina Grad. Breaking, viral, weird crime, protest, politics. Give me news with Gina Grad. Stuff they saw on TMZ. Joe Biden. Kamala. Beat news with Gina Grad.
The news with Gina Grad.
Well, it's not often we start the show with something kind of fun and funny, so let's mix it up today. This happened a couple days ago, but we didn't get to it, so let's take a look at it. This very protective husband in North Carolina leapt into action to save his wife from a rabid bobcat in a now very viral video from the last couple days.
Oh, yeah, I saw it.
So in home security footage that hit Twitter on Thursday, the day was just normal. You see this couple. The guy, by the way, who did this heroic act, this manly man, his name is Happy Wade. He offered a chipper good morning to the jogger passing by. He put some brownies on the hood of his car to sort of get situated to open the car. And then his wife, Christy, made this crazy noise, or like a animal-made noise, started attacking her. You see it on the home security. I'll tell you a little bit more about it in a minute, but this is what the actual attack looked like. It's happening in between the two cars.
Yeah, they're both. It's actually the same. It's kind of interesting. Pause it for a second. We're talking about that video of the cop that shot the chick for stabbing. This is the exact same vantage point. So it must be the ring, the new ring-mounted whatever garage. You can see the street. And I think it's motion activated. That's why
that would make sense.
It's not running the whole time, but why we see it now. Go ahead.
Listen to Happy's play-by-play. Just jumps right on her. She's running. Happy grabs the bobcat.
Holds it over his head.
Like the Lion King.
Oh my God.
Throws it.
That's Tropic Thunder right there.
Tries to scare it. Runs right back.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Shoot that fucker! Yeah!
Wow. Not so happy.
So let me just tell you a little more. He ultimately did shoot the bobcat, realized it had to be sick or, like probably rabid, because that's not what they do. Its body was sent to a lab.
Or did he want to shoot a bobcat who attacked his wife? Like,
maybe,
how much
but,
analysis can you do?
Well, they did end up, Happy and Christy did have to get treated for rabies, and they got 30 rabies shots. So he walked the walk, because apparently that is not bobcat behavior, just start randomly attacking the neighbors.
Oh, I get it. I'm saying I still think he wanted to shoot the bobcat.
Sure.
I'm all
a lot of
for
arm
it.
twisting to shoot the bobcat.
Also,
they gave him the bobcat after all that, like the pelt or something to make it to a
mount
hat or
it.
something.
Yeah,
gotta be.
Hat.
That's gotta be a cause for post-traumatic stress disorder, like being able to walk. You walked out your car in the morning, were attacked by a bobcat.
Yeah. Especially alone.
You'd never feel comfortable walking between cars.
Every
right?
time you see a tray of brownies.
Yeah. That guy's funny because on that tape at the beginning, he was saying hi to everybody and asking about coffee or something like that. And then he went right into bobcat killing mode. That's good. And it's good. Here's the thing. I don't want to be cynical.
Okay.
But who do you think installed the Ring camera on top of the garage? Him or the wife?
Oh, most likely him, of course.
So he was aware we were rolling on this. I'm saying if he hadn't mounted that thing 4 days earlier, don't you think he would have done a shoulder roll back into the house and slammed the door?
Every man for himself.
And I don't want to take it a step further. How do we know it wasn't planned? How do we know this mysterious bobcat that no one's spoken to?
The blocking was pretty good.
Seemed pretty well orchestrated to this podcaster.
Yeah.
He was there. Oh, the brownies will be a nice touch. That's a sweet touch. I probably had a publicist like, hey, take the brownies. But they're made of styrofoam. They'll read like
Frost
brownies.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. This guy's a charlatan.
Is his name really Happy?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was gilding the lily, calling him Happy.
Yeah, Morose Johnson. Please use your Christian name, would you?
I didn't realize we were catching a fraudster.
Yes, I want this guy vetted because we could have a full. Oh shit, what's his name? Speaking of, oh God. I'll think of his name. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, let's talk.
Jussie Smollett.
Thank you.
The white Jussie Smollett.
Pissy Smollett.
Yeah, that's right. It's a ruse.
That was the best follow-up story. He set up the whole thing. There's like video of him like exchanging, some kind of currency with the bobcat.
Right.
A couple Nigerian guys seen coming in and out of the house days earlier.
Right.
Setting it up.
In really good shape.
Yeah, if that camera panned 4 foot to the left, you'd see a guy holding a cage in khaki shorts, just shoving the bobcat out of the little travel cage.
Derek says, we got to cut this show short. I got to talk to my new client, Happy.
That's right.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Snoop Dogg is insinuating something, and it has people talking.
Is Snoop even his real name?
Remember for 5 minutes when he went by Snoop Lion?
Mm-hmm.
His new song implies that he smoked weed with Barack Obama. Fox News reports that in his new album, From the Streets to the Suites, there's a line from his track Gang Signs that has many people wondering who he got high with. Well, because he names a bunch of them. Here's a clip from the song.
Riding through the ghetto, all you hear is the slide. Everybody throwing up gang signs. Throwing up gang signs. 415s with the zap on my lap. Riding through the ghetto, all you hear is the slide. Everybody throwing up gang signs. Niggas throwing up gang signs. Still sipping gin and juice while smoking marijuana. I bet you never blew with Obama. Crip walking with my homegirl Martha. While I'm passing joints to Madonna. Who wanna smoke with Snoop? Let's have a smoke or two. Puff, puff, pass. That's what real smokers do.
So
Sounds like a parody of Snoop Dogg.
it does. And they're featuring a guy, Mosey in the middle that may strengthen that theory.
Oh no.
But yeah, Madonna, Martha Stewart, President Obama, or maybe it's Michelle. Who knows?
Oh, yeah, we
Could
got
be
the
Martha
Obama.
Plimpton.
Oh, that's true.
Martha Stewart.
That's
Martha. Oh, wait, who's the MTV DJ?
Martha
Quinn.
Quinn,
Martha
yes.
Quinn, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, it most likely actually. So
I
yeah.
can't- I can't wait for weed to be legalized to the point where it's like it's just nobody cares at all about like the president. Like where they just smoke it in the Oval Office in the evenings just to like unwind.
I feel like we're on our way.
We're there.
Yeah, we're close.
I think we're moving in a good direction.
I don't understand why everyone just who lives in SoCal, at least, who wants to smoke weed, doesn't cultivate a couple plants in the backyard. I mean, I know, the feds and the helicopters, but I know
bigger problems.
I know people that are
Yeah.
doing it. Seems pretty easy.
Yeah.
It's a weed, man. It grows. It likes this environment.
Indeed.
I'm also kind of wondering, every time I talk to someone, I go, how'd your brother make so much money? It's like, he does the weed business. Like, there's so many places where they're growing. How could the consumption match the production? Like, there's just endless, tents filled with bud everywhere. It's like, what percentage of people smoke this much or need this much? Like,
Is it being exported to other states? Now that there's legal?
I guess. I don't know. But
I don't know if you can. Yeah, that's tricky. Yeah, the states have. We have some friends at Cannaburst. That they just went to Oklahoma to start like an operation there, but they've done these edibles. Oh, they're so good.
Oh my God, they're the best.
In Washington, but then they couldn't, like when they opened up a new thing in Oklahoma, they couldn't just take the Washington stuff to Oklahoma. They had to redo their whole business operation in Oklahoma from the ground up to cater to that market. So they deal with a lot of weird stuff.
you
can't just bounce it around.
In a weird weed-related thought, I saw Alex Berenson, who started off by wrote a book on weed and like it was dangerous. I'm oversimplifying it, but it's interesting. Moved on to COVID and stuff. He said the homeless guy who I said was high on bath salts and like ate that guy's face, no bath salts in him, weed. Which is something we just ran with the bath salts. But he said they did an autopsy on the guy, and he had weed in him and not bath salts.
I've eaten some crazy shit high, but it's never at all. I thought I would be a cannibal. That can't be right.
Would that exacerbate a mental illness that was already there?
I'm guessing that's what it is. But we still want bath salts, which is weird.
When bath salts became the boogeyman, what do we know about bath salts?
Nothing. It was all kind of based on somebody saying bath salts in that thing. But according to him, and he's an investigative journalist. I mean, he's a serious guy. He said they did the autopsy and there was no bath salts.
Wow.
But there was weed. But look, there's weed in half the homeless guys. I don't know that caused. He's not saying that caused it, but there wasn't any bath salts, which is interesting. And a kind of interesting peek behind our psychological curtain as a society. It's like someone goes bath salts, and then we all go bath salts, bath salts, bath salts, and then it just it just is. And then 5 years goes by, and we all know it.
Right.
Because that's all we know.
Well, and it's like, what countries are we friends with? It's like we have no beef with Japan, but it wasn't always like that, or we have no beef, whatever. And think of all
I got a fucking Kobe beef going with Japan because I had some of that shit the other day,
Delicious.
and I am
Succulent.
ruined.
I get
ruined.
it. But then you think of like the Reefer Madness, and it was like the devil's cabbage, and it's like now we have a new boogeyman. So where are you guys, by the way?
We're in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, where there's we're right by the border of Washington, so we can go 15 minutes to get weed, but we can't buy it locally.
Oh wow.
Not in a store, not in a dispensary. Yeah.
Got it. So the square where George Floyd was murdered by ex Minnesota cop Derek Chauvin has a sign with special rules for white people, according to the New York Post. So
done.
There's a placard.
I will take your fucking word for it. I'm not vacationing there.
There's a placard, and we'll show it to you, at the entrance of George Floyd Square in Minnesota. And it says it's a sacred space for community, public grief, and protest. But most of the instructions are listed under 5 orders for white people in particular. Here they are.
This doesn't feel official.
Decenter.
First things,
right. Some of these pamphlets.
They just moved a bunch of dirt to the middle of the intersection. You can't tell when you look at the picture, but it's just the intersection. And they just moved a bunch of dirt to the middle of it and made it a roundabout.
Oh. I didn't know that.
Right.
Okay.
No, this is, again, I want to put a deck on my house. I got to pull a permit and blow a guy from Department of Building and Safety. You want to fucking make an island in the middle of an
Grab a shovel.
intersection, you can. Yeah, we can probably find a picture of it somewhere. I don't know where Ma'Khia went to. Did he go somewhere?
The third bullet point, this has to be not official. I just love that, basically for white people, don't bring your bad white people energy, essentially, is what it's saying?
Yes.
To the area?
Exactly. Let me break it down for you. It says, decenter yourself and come to listen, learn, mourn, and witness. Remember, you are here to support, not to be supported. Be mindful of whether your volume, pace, and movements are supporting or undermining your efforts to decenter yourself. Seek to contribute to the energy of the space rather than drain it. Bring your own process to other white folks so that you will not harm BIPOC.
This is written by a white chick.
Probably. Consider if you want or need
yoga class instruction.
Yeah, I know.
Decenter. Consider if you want or need to take photos and post them, and don't post without consent from the people in them. Bring your own process to other. Oh, we did that one. While many on social media supported the sign, others spoke out against it. One person saying, how would this have been perceived if Muslims were given this sign after 9/11?
Right.
Wouldn't have probably fared well.
That's an interesting logic thing, just with, I think, with people in general. It's like, if it's wrong to put one gender, race, culture, whatever in the blank, then it's wrong for all of them. I'm amazed how many people seem to kind of miss that. It's like, when you have the argument of well, if you switch this with black, would it be okay? No. Well, then it's not okay.
Well,
it's like,
we can.
I don't know.
Kaylin, where's Chris? Where'd Chris go again?
He's in the back talking to some guests.
Oh.
That's code for flambeing and sous vide.
Pooping.
I was just. All right. I feel like we're still doing the show. I don't know what he's doing. All right. Well, maybe it's something. But
the fuck.
All right. Anyway. We have the picture of the intersection. They took over the whole intersection.
I like that intersection.
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
All right, put Dan and Lynze up, please. I can see him. Yeah, look. The thing about all of this stuff is, at first blush, it sounds sort of reasonable. Like you would go, well, what's wrong with having a black dormitory on Harvard or a separate graduation, whatever, because of, and it all kind of starts off as sort of, well, yeah, I could see that, or that I'll buy that, or that makes sense. But it devolves into just a full separation of races, which is what we're speeding toward now. So we're now hauling ass toward a completely separate, world society, as a black man, as an Asian, as a whatever. We're just pulling everything apart. And as I always say, it then BLM she'll create a White Lives Matter thing. They already had a rally. You can go, oh, that's ridiculous, but it has to be. You cannot have this many of this without somebody going, we're going to do our own thing then. over here, and that's where we're heading. By the way, in the name of unity or something with the politicians and the fucking unity. I don't know what kind of fucking unity we're talking about here. And then you have to get hold of all the 9-year-old white kids and teach them critical race theory and fucking make them angry that they're white and explain to them, the sins of the past. It's a fucking recipe for disaster. I wish more people had the fucking balls to talk about it. They don't. There's a small group of people that are going to get rich off it. Everyone else is just scared shitless, and that's where we're living right now.
Yeah, it's a scary, slippery slope, where it's like, if you just keep dividing things and keep pushing people apart, like you said, it's like, that's not going to end well. It's like and just because, yes, it's like there's these historical, terrible, terrible things, but then the solution is not to take the pendulum too far back the other way. It's like, we always preach this, like, it's like we're better if we're all working together and joking around with each other and focusing on just being human beings, not like adding all these qualifiers constantly and just further segregating ourselves. Yeah, it's just a recipe for increased tension going forward.
I'll tell you who I blame. It's not Black Lives Matter, Al Sharpton, Obama, any of that. It's the ladies' fitness gym, Curves.
Excuse me?
They started the whole fucking thing. They're like, oh, we need our own space for the fallopian tubing. And you know what? We all went, seems sensible to us. Yeah, will make sense. We'll sign off on that. Now look where we are.
Look what we've done.
Look what we've done.
That is such a funny, but also like so relevant. Like it is an interesting thing where they'll have like the girl that wants to be not in the Girl Scouts, but wants to be part of the Boy Scouts. Okay, well, we can let her in the Boy Scouts. But then no one's rooting for I want to be the guy in Curves. It's like, get out of here, you fucking pervert. Go on, beat it. And it's like, no, but that's kind of the same actually.
Chris is meeting with the camera guys who are going to help us out in the studio with the cameras. So it's official business.
Okay. Now we know.
Well, let's tell those guys to crack a tap water, chillax for 18 minutes.
22 hours in the day. Aside from the show.
Yeah, don't give them the good stuff. Yeah,
I know. I would never.
All right. Go ahead. One more, Gina Grad.
Good. Because, with all of this divisive, I'm sorry, both your grandmothers, divisive talk, you might want to head.
Divisive?
You might want to head to somewhere like Coeur d'Alene or, I don't know, maybe right outside Scottsdale to a bulletproof house owned by Steven Seagal. What? By the way, that house is up for sale. So this might be the most unique home in Arizona right now. Actor Steven Seagal has listed his bulletproof home in North Scottsdale. It's a custom home, in case you thought maybe he was moving ready for him like that.
Kaufman and Broad.
12 acres, guard gated. It's the ironically named Carefree Ranch. The estate is almost 3,000 feet above sea level, overlooks Desert Mountain, and of course the floor-to-ceiling windows are bulletproof. 4 bedrooms, a theater, a swimming pool, a spa, 3-car garage, a guest home. It's about 9,000 square feet, about $3.5 million if anyone's interested.
That's in my range.
I just love that Steven Seagal thinks anybody wants to kill him.
Yeah, gated community, bulletproof windows.
Well,
I would argue that more people just assume that he's already dead.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I got a couple of rebuttals. First off, I think one of his movies was called Mark for Death, I think. So he may be just living that life, running serpentine to the mailbox,
Yeah.
Also, he's in pretty deep with the Ruskies.
Right, yes.
And they have a rich history of eliminating competition.
Good point.
You know what I'm saying? So my feeling is this is a sweet pad I could hang in.
Well, he's law enforcement. Think how many guys he's put away.
That's right.
He's going to come out and find
You know
him.
what? He needs this place.
I like the Seagal history.
Yeah.
I think that's a conversation piece when we're at dinner. I don't know what we do with all the Just for Men and the pillows. We're gonna
the Grecian formula?
Yeah, we're going to have to work that one out. Or maybe he can just pack that with him.
Yeah, you take that with him.
Okay, that's good. So other than that, that was my only real issue.
I get it. Drain the pool because that mixes in too. But I wanted to remind you guys of something. Now, we could sit here all day and make fun of Steven Seagal, and I'd love to, but I stand by this. I've told you guys this many times. His album, Song from the Crystal Cave, that album rocks. Here is, once again, one of my favorite songs from his actual album. I think it's called Girl, It's All Right.
A lot of Native American decor in that house, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
I genuinely like this song.
Girl, it's all right.
you sweeten it up with enough background vocals.
Look at the album
anyone will
cover.
sound great.
Oh, don't be a hater.
The album cover's best.
I will to say that now I have everything.
This might be played at my wedding.
Whoa. Look out,
Be your first
Hasselhoff.
man.
There's a new melodic sheriff in town. His name is Steven Seagal.
So anyway,
How does Seagal
Yes,
get
I
around the
will say
cultural
that was
appropriation?
not what I expected.
it's not bad.
I was very scared. That was
Yeah.
not bad.
He has a
Mayer-
much,
John
much better
Mayer-esque.
voice than I expected.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Now, here's the thing about living in a house with bulletproof glass. At this point, are you hoping somebody shows up with a gun
Gotta
just
get your
so you
money's
can
worth.
kind of stand in
so.
the
Yes.
plate
Yeah.
glass window in your bathrobe and
Give him
look
a
at
cheers
him and
with
like,
your coffee.
yeah, take your coffee,
Oh,
take
yeah.
a draw of your coffee, give him a salute. He pumps the shotgun and he's staring at you
That's
confused
great.
and sweaty. And
Yes.
Diplomatic
you
immunity.
do that move.
Yeah.
I think for sure. I mean, like you were in real estate for a while here, and aren't there agents or real estate agents that specialize in like bunkers?
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Things-
sure.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Idaho, yeah.
Idaho,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I've always
Preppers and all that.
preppers. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've always felt like you don't go that hard on prepping and not want the world to start to end,
That's right.
because otherwise you've just wasted your time.
That's right.
That's a
You know,
good
if you have
point.
the bunker and you have the oxygen cleansing fan or whatever the hell it is, and you got your water purification system, and you got all these things, and you do drills with your family. You don't do that hoping
No,
things
you want
aren't
it.
going to just go to shit.
Yeah, like if
Yeah.
you tote that travel neck donut with you
Mm.
through the airport, you have to fucking take a nap at some. I don't care if it's 45 minutes to Phoenix. You're
Right.
like, fuck it, I'm closing my eyes because I've
to
been
justify
lugging this
it.
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's waiting
Same.
to be attacked.
That's right.
They want.
It never happened, so he's moving.
Yeah.
Moving to Fallujah.
And not only did you do all the prepping with the canned food and the bunker and the air filtration system and everything, you've been getting shit from your sister who lives in the Bay Area, who's been calling you a fucking nut job
Right.
for 17
Right.
years.
How's the bunker, Dan?
Yeah, and all you want is that last phone call. No, the scratching at the door.
Right. I was wrong.
It's Cammy.
Let us in.
Yes.
Yes, it's Cammy from Redwood City. Let me in. Well, that's funny.
Redwood City, good pull.
Yeah. Okay.
I can't get a disturbing image out of my head. I'm just because I'm a dirtbag. But when you talked about Steven Seagal like sipping the coffee and just letting the bullets hit the window, my brain immediately took it further and just like this weird show of manliness where then he just drops the robe and just masturbates.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well played.
I'm
Right?
gonna
If you
return
could
fire.
finish, while people are shooting directly at you, that's pretty manly.
That's a real man.
I would say that would add 20 minutes to most guys, but there's a small percentage that it would shave a couple of minutes, you know? Like Ted Nugent would definitely finish
Couldn't
faster.
get the pants off fast enough.
Charlton Heston would have finished faster. There's a couple of guys
Yeah,
that
you're right.
would have sped
It
it,
helps.
up. All right, let's bring it home, Gina Grad.
You got it. I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news.
Women, am I right?
Gina.
That was the news with Gina Grad.
Dan, Lynze, Scared to Death's the name of the podcast. Available now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube as well. That was fun, man. That made me laugh. So, thanks.
Thanks for having us. That was fun.
That was great.
This was Lindsay's first press too, and I thought she was very comfortable.
Great job.
That's nice.
Mhm.
Totally
Yeah,
natural.
It's different, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job.
It's a high
All
pressure
that
environment.
podcasting.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was really sweating.
Yeah. Call
was
your
nervous. She was
dad,
nervous, yeah.
tell him you got your hymen busted, and then pause, and then say on press.
Yes.
Just to put a little step in him. All right, thanks you guys
I would
for
be able to feel it. Yeah.
for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank
All right.
you. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
guys.
Last but not least, there's Geico. Do you rent your home? Well, you do one or the other. And, it can be made easy if you just get your bundle going at Geico. Just go to geico.com. Take your homeowners or your renters insurance and get it together with your automotive policy. It's a good thing, too, because you already have so much to do around the house. So go to geico.com, get a quote, and see just how much you could save and just how easy it could be at Geico. That is geico.com, and get your bundle on. All right, Appleton, Wisconsin, Skyline Comedy Club, May 7th and 8th, stand-up and live pod there. So just go to adamcarolla.com. We're going to do Jam in the Van. Brian, you can walk there.
Awesome.
That's
Free
live.
party at my place.
Live pod. Yeah, live pod over there, man. May 22nd. It's fun. And Golden, Colorado, Buffalo Rose. Going to do some stand-up and some live Locks and Honors for them there. And we're doing live pod as well. June 18th, 19th, and until next time, this is Adam for Gina and Bald and Phillip and Dan and Lynze saying mahalo.
Shut the fuck up!